Hey guys! Tonight we trudge into the hot, grimy world of medieval blacksmiths, the folks you probably won't envy. Unless you enjoy burns, backbreaking labor, and endless clouds of choking smoke. Picture a forge roaring with fire, the air thick with soot, sweat dripping into molten metal, and a hammer pounding relentlessly on an anvil. It's a world of heat, noise, and pain that's as unforgiving as it is essential to medieval life. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and local time in the comments. I'm curious where you're tuning in from. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step into a workshop that's part furnace, part torture chamber. The blacksmith's day starts early and ends late, filled with constant hammering, heavy lifting, and the ever-present risk of searing burns. It's a job where even a small mistake can mean serious injury, or worse. Historically, blacksmiths were indispensable. They forged everything from horseshoes to weapons, tools to household items. Yet despite their vital role, life at the forge was brutal and exhausting. Their story is one of resilience in the face of relentless hardship, a story often overshadowed by the shining swords they crafted. You might imagine a blacksmith as a heroic figure, but most of their time was spent in misery, surrounded by heat, noise, and smoke that could choke and blind. Apprentices learned the trade by enduring blisters, burns, and back pain, all while mastering skills that took years to perfect. And here's a quirky tidbit. Some smiths believe that working near fire gave them special strength or character, a kind of fiery blessing. Historians still argue whether such beliefs were common or just colorful folklore. As you place your hand near the glowing forge, feel the heat radiating, hear the hammer striking metal with rhythmic force, and imagine the sweat stinging your eyes. This is the medieval blacksmith's world grueling, necessary, and far from glamorous. Learning the trade, burns and blisters. You wake before dawn, already aching from yesterday's relentless pounding of metal, knowing the day ahead promises more of the same. Training as a medieval blacksmith isn't a gentle introduction. It's a baptism by fire, literally. Your apprenticeship begins with endless hours at the forge, where burns, blisters, and bruises become your constant companions. Imagine your hands, raw and cracked, blistered from gripping red-hot iron and heavy tools. The blacksmith's work demands not just strength, but precision. And every misstep could mean serious injury. You learn early to respect the heat. But that respect doesn't always prevent accidents like dropping a glowing piece of metal or slipping on the sooty floor. Your master is a tough figure, expecting more than just physical labor. You're drilled in the basics of metalworking, heating, hammering, folding, and shaping steel into useful shapes. Yet the most important lesson is endurance. How long you can stand the punishing heat. How many strikes you can deliver before your arm gives out. And how many burns you can ignore. The forge itself is a dangerous place. Hot coals glow beneath the bellows. Smoke fills your lungs, and the ringing clang of hammer on anvil is relentless. You learn to navigate this chaos, but the risk of injury is never far away. Fingers might be crushed, eyes irritated, and clothes singed in an instant. Curiously, some apprentices were known to develop calluses so tough they joked their hands had turned into iron gloves. But that's cold comfort when you're nursing fresh wounds after a day's work. Historians still debate how formalized blacksmith apprenticeships really were in the Middle Ages. Some argue they were structured guild programs. Others see them as rough, informal arrangements based more on family ties or chance. Either way, one thing is clear. Becoming a blacksmith required grit, pain tolerance, and a stubborn willingness to endure one of the hardest trades of the time, you might not survive this apprenticeship unscathed. But if you do, you'll earn a skill set that could make you indispensable, or a lifetime of scars and sore muscles. Tools of the trade heavy and hazardous. As you settle deeper into the blacksmith's world, you realize your tools are as much foes as friends. Those heavy hammers, tongs, and chisels are indispensable, but also unwieldy, dangerous, and exhausting to wield for hours on end. Take the hammer, for example. It's massive, made from solid iron, and weighs enough to tire out even the strongest apprentice. You're expected to swing it repeatedly, striking red-hot metal with precision and power. One wrong move, and you risk smashing your fingers or losing your balance altogether. The anvil is your workstation and your battlefield. Its cold, unforgiving surface bears the brunt of your hammering. You learn to read its scars and dents, understanding how different parts of the metal respond under your blows. But standing on cold stone floors for hours while using this massive tool leaves your legs aching and your back screaming. Tongs are your lifeline, grasping searing hot metal without dropping or burning yourself. But they can be slippery, clumsy, and require an almost unnatural grip. Fumbling with tongs can result in disaster, a blazing hot piece flying into your foot, or a fellow worker. Then there's the furnace and bellows, the roaring heart of the forge. Feeding the fire with coal or charcoal demands strength and timing. Too little air, and the fire dies. Too much, and it flares dangerously. The constant exposure to heat and smoke leaves your skin burned, lungs irritated, and vision blurred. Safety gear. Forget it. There's no flame-retardant clothing or gloves, just leather aprons and thick cloth. Barely enough to protect you from sparks and slag. The danger is ever present. Accidents were common, from burns and cuts to crushed fingers or worse. Blacksmiths learned quickly that one slip could end a career or a life. Despite these hazards, mastery of your tools meant control over creation itself. Every sword, horseshoe, or plowshare forged was a testament to your skill and resilience. Historians still debate how much tool quality affected blacksmith work and safety, given the variations in available materials and technology across regions. For now, you grit your teeth and continue your dance with fire and steel, knowing that your very survival depends on mastering these heavy, hazardous tools. Long, punishing hours by the anvil. You rise early, before the first light paints the sky, already dreading the day ahead. The blacksmith's workday stretches endlessly from dawn's first glow to dusk's final shadows. There is little rest, only the relentless rhythm of hammer striking metal, the fiery glow of the forge, and the aching muscles that protest every movement. Imagine standing on cold stone floors, feet sore and blistered, back stiff from bending over the anvil for hours on end. Each strike demands focus and strength, your arms growing heavy, sweat streaming down your face, and smoke stinging your eyes. The heat presses in on you, wrapping your body in a suffocating blanket, while the hammer's clang echoes like a war drum. The work is repetitive and exhausting, heating metal until it glows, lifting it with heavy tongs, pounding it into shape, quenching it in water or oil, and then starting all over again. There is no room for haste. A single mistake can ruin a piece or, worse, cause injury. Despite the grind, you find a strange satisfaction in the process, a meditative rhythm to the labor, a connection to the craft that shapes the world. Every horseshoe hammered, every sword forged, feels like a small victory against the daily struggle. Yet the toll on your body is undeniable. Blisters burst, muscles cramp, and fatigue seeps deep into your bones. Blacksmiths were known to suffer chronic pain, arthritis, and even permanent disabilities from the relentless labor. Historically, guild regulations often dictated work hours, but enforcement was uneven. Some smiths worked from sunrise to well past sunset, especially during busy seasons like harvest or war preparation. Scholars still debate how much downtime medieval blacksmiths really had and how they balanced the brutal demands with personal life and community. As the sun dips below the horizon, you finally step away from the anvil, muscles trembling but spirit stubbornly unbroken. Tomorrow, the cycle begins again. Blacksmiths fashion soot, sweat, and leather. You might imagine medieval blacksmiths wearing sleek uniforms or protective gear, but the reality is far messier and smellier. Your everyday attire is less about style and more about survival in an environment filled with smoke, heat, and grime. Your skin is perpetually coated in soot and sweat, a layer so thick it feels almost like armor. Blacksmiths earned nicknames like smudge men or coal dogs because of their perpetually dirty appearance. Washing off the grime was difficult. Given limited access to clean water and the harsh nature of medieval life, your typical outfit consists of a thick leather apron, your primary shield against sparks and hot metal, alongside heavy linen or woolen shirts and trousers. The leather is stiff and uncomfortable, rubbing against your skin and trapping heat. Protective gloves were often absent or rudimentary, making burns on fingers and hands a frequent hazard. Footwear is another concern. Heavy boots are necessary to protect against dropped tools or molten metal, but they add to the physical strain, making every step heavy and tiring. On hot days, your feet sweat inside those boots, adding yet another discomfort. Beyond practicality, blacksmiths' appearance affected their social standing. While respected for their essential skills, they were still laborers, often considered lower class. Their sooty clothes and rough hands marked them as workers, not gentlemen. Interestingly, some blacksmiths would adorn themselves with simple jewelry or tattoos to signal guild membership or personal pride, though such adornments were rare and limited by their environment. Historians debate how much social mobility blacksmiths had and whether their outward appearance limited their opportunities or acceptance in broader society. As you wipe sweat from your brow, your grimy clothes clinging uncomfortably, you realize that fashion in the forge is less about making a statement and more about enduring the day's brutal realities. Working with fire friend and foe, you stand before the roaring forge, heat radiating like a living beast. Fire is both your ally and your greatest enemy, a powerful tool that shapes metal but also threatens to consume you. Every day is a battle to control this elemental force. Feeding the furnace is backbreaking work. You shovel coal or charcoal into the blazing pit, the heavy bags burning your hands, and the smoke stings your eyes and throat. The bellows must be pumped steadily to keep the fire hot enough to melt and shape iron and steel, a task demanding rhythm and strength. The heat is relentless. Even with a thick leather apron, sweat pours down your face, soaking your clothes and making the air feel thick and heavy. You're constantly wary of sparks flying, knowing that a stray ember could ignite a devastating blaze or leave a painful burn. Smoke chokes and clings to you, making breathing laborious. Some blacksmiths developed chronic lung problems, unable to escape the suffocating haze that filled their workshops. The smell of burning coal and metal lingers on skin and clothes for days. Fire's unpredictability is a constant challenge. Too little heat, and your metal won't soften. Too much, and it can warp or become brittle. You watch the color of the glowing metal carefully, a dull red, bright orange, white-hot signaling different stages of malleability. Historians debate how well medieval blacksmiths understood the chemistry behind forging, but their skills were honed through experience and tradition passed down generations. At times, fire betrayed you. Explosions of gas pockets in the furnace, sudden flare-ups, or accidental spills of molten metal caused injuries or destroyed work. Blacksmiths accepted these dangers as part of their brutal profession. Yet, mastering fire meant mastering creation itself. It was a dance of respect, skill, and vigilance. Your survival depended on understanding this fierce, ever-changing force. Economic pressures, clients, and competition. You think hammering metal all day is the hardest part? Try juggling demanding clients and ruthless rivals while barely making ends meet. The medieval blacksmith's life was not just about forging steel, it was about surviving the harsh economics of a competitive trade. Your day is filled with interruptions, nobles ordering finely crafted swords, farmers needing horseshoes before the harvest, or townsfolk requesting simple nails. Each client expects quality and timely delivery, but you often struggle to meet their demands with limited resources and time. Prices fluctuate wildly. When wars loom, weapon demand skyrockets, and you might work round the clock, only to face droughts of orders during peaceful seasons. Some clients haggle aggressively, pushing prices so low you barely cover your costs. Competition is fierce. Neighboring smiths vie for the same customers, sometimes resorting to undercutting prices or spreading rumors to damage reputations. Guilds tried to regulate the trade, setting standards and prices, but enforcement was patchy. You also face supply challenges. Coal and metal ores are expensive and sometimes scarce. Poor quality materials mean more rework and waste, cutting into your slim profits. Credit was often extended informally, leaving you waiting months for payment. You juggle debts and bills, the constant stress wearing down your resolve. Historians debate how much blacksmiths controlled their markets versus being at the mercy of nobles and guilds. Some suggest smiths had limited power, squeezed by patrons and competitors alike. Despite the pressures, your craft keeps the wheels of society turning, from armor that protects knights to tools that feed villages. It's a tough balancing act. Create with care while navigating the treacherous currents of medieval economics. Health hazards more than just burns. You might think the worst injuries a medieval blacksmith faced were burns or cuts from fiery metal, but the reality is far more grim and varied. Day after day, the toll on your body and mind accumulates, often in ways invisible until it's too late. The constant pounding of heavy hammers sends shockwaves through your arms and shoulders, leading to chronic joint pain and arthritis in later years. Your back aches from bending over the anvil, muscles strained from repetitive motions, and long hours standing on hard stone floors exacerbate leg and foot problems. The deafening clang of metal on metal assaults your ears daily. Without modern hearing protection, many blacksmiths suffered significant hearing loss or tinnitus, a persistent ringing that can drive even the toughest mad. Then there's the smoke and dust you breathe in the toxic blend of coal dust, metal particles, and fumes from the forge. Lung diseases like silicosis or chronic bronchitis were common, slowly suffocating you as your body struggled to cope. Eye injuries were a constant threat. Flying sparks, bits of hot metal, or slag could cause blindness or painful wounds, and without protective eyewear, accidents were frequent. Accidental cuts and puncture wounds from sharp tools or metal shards were everyday hazards. Infection was a deadly risk, especially before germ theory or antibiotics. Historians still debate the extent of these health issues, but agree that blacksmithing was one of the most physically damaging professions of the medieval era. Despite the hardships, many blacksmiths lived long enough to pass their craft to apprentices or children, bearing scars that told tales of survival and relentless toil. As you wipe soot from your eyes and massage aching joints, you realize that the price of crafting metal was more than skin deep. Social status respected yet limited. You hammer and shape the very tools that keep medieval society running. Yet your place in the social hierarchy is complicated. As a blacksmith, you're both respected and constrained, admired for your indispensable skills, but rarely afforded high status or power. People depend on you. You craft weapons for knights, horseshoes for farmers, and tools for builders. Your work literally shapes the world around you. Townsfolk often view blacksmiths with a mixture of awe and wariness, recognizing their craft's power, but sometimes associating them with danger, fire, and even magic. Despite this essential role, blacksmiths were generally considered part of the artisan or laboring class, not the gentry. Your daily grime, soot-streaked face, and calloused hands marked you as a worker, not a noble. Social mobility was limited, and privileges scarce. Guild membership offered some protections and camaraderie, regulating standards and training, but it also enforced rigid boundaries. You're bound by the guild's rules, restricted in your trade, and required to follow the town's social customs. Marriage prospects and community standing were affected by your profession. Some saw blacksmiths as steady and reliable, others as rough and unrefined. Interestingly, folklore and superstition sometimes cast blacksmiths as wielders of supernatural power, able to forge not just metal but fate. Horseshoes nailed above doorways to ward off evil, or charms forged into weapons hint at a mystical aura around the craft. Historians debate the real extent of this mystique and how it influenced blacksmiths' social roles. So, as you wipe soot from your brow and glance at the village around you, remember your life is a balancing act between being vital and marginalized, respected and restrained. Blacksmiths in community and culture. You're more than just a solitary figure hammering metal. You're a vital thread woven into the fabric of medieval community life. The forge is a gathering place, a hub of activity where villagers meet, news spreads, and traditions take shape. The blacksmith shop is often located near the town square, a noisy yet welcoming space filled with sparks and conversation. Locals stop by not just for horseshoes or tools, but to exchange stories, gossip, and advice. Your role extends beyond crafting. You're a trusted member of the community. In folklore and superstition, blacksmiths occupy a curious space. They're sometimes seen as magical figures, wielding secret knowledge of fire and metal. Tales of smiths forging enchanted swords or warding off evil spirits are common, painting you as both artisan and mystic. Festivals and rituals often involve the forge. Some villages hold ceremonies blessing the smithy, praying for protection against fire and ensuring bountiful harvests. The ringing of the hammer is thought to drive away malevolent forces, blending work and worship. Your craft influences culture too. From crafting wedding rings to church bells, your handiwork marks life's milestones and community identity. You're both creator and preserver of tradition. Historians debate how much of the mystical aura around blacksmiths was genuine belief versus storytelling embellishment, but there's no denying their cultural significance. Amid the clang of metal and crackle of flames, you realize the blacksmith's forge is more than a workplace. It's the heart of medieval life, pulsing with history, myth, and human connection. Apprentices and family passing on pain. As you settle into your forge, you realize that the blacksmith's craft isn't just about metal, it's about legacy, pain, and the relentless cycle of teaching the next generation. Apprenticeships are brutal affairs, often lasting 7 years or more, during which you endure harsh discipline and grueling labor to master the trade. Imagine a young apprentice, wide-eyed and eager, but quickly overwhelmed by the heat, smoke, and backbreaking work. Blisters form on their hands, burns mark their skin, and exhaustion is constant. You, as their master, balance the role of teacher and taskmaster, pushing them to endure pain and build skill without breaking their spirit. Most apprentices came from local families, sometimes even relatives, turning the forge into a family business. Sons and daughters learned to wield hammers and tongs, inheriting not just tools, but scars and stories. It's a tough love passed down through generations, skills forged in fire and sweat. The work often started with menial tasks, fetching coal, cleaning the forge, tending the fire, necessary chores, but also ways to build discipline and respect for the craft. Only after mastering these basics did apprentices get to handle the hammer. Mistakes were costly, not just in damaged goods, but in injuries. Punishments could be harsh, designed to enforce discipline in a dangerous environment. Yet, there was pride in progress. A gradual transformation from clumsy novice to skilled smith. Historians debate how formalized apprenticeships were, varying widely by region and guild. Some places had strict contracts. Others relied on informal arrangements. As you watch your apprentice struggle, you understand that the forge shapes not just metal, but character-molding patience, strength, and resilience through hardship. This passing on of pain and skill is the beating heart of the medieval blacksmith's legacy, ensuring that even as times change, the craft endures. Gender roles women and blacksmithing. You might assume that the blacksmith's forge was an exclusively male domain, but the medieval world tells a more complex story. While men dominated the trade, women occasionally found their way into the fire and smoke. Challenging norms and expectations. Imagine a woman stepping into the forge, sleeves rolled up, hands blackened with soot, wielding a hammer alongside her male counterparts. Though rare, women sometimes worked as blacksmiths, whether as daughters learning the family craft, widows taking over the workshop, or independent artisans defying conventions. Their presence was often overlooked or downplayed in historical records, leading to debates among scholars about the extent and nature of female blacksmithing. Some argue women were mostly assistants, while others present evidence of fully skilled female smiths producing quality work. In certain regions, especially rural areas, women's involvement was more accepted out of necessity. Family workshops meant survival depended on everyone pitching in. Women also played crucial roles in maintaining the forge, preparing materials, and sometimes handling the business side of operations. Beyond physical labor, women influenced the cultural and social aspects of smithing communities. They passed down stories, superstitions, and rituals tied to the forge, preserving its place in folklore and tradition. Historians still debate how much power and recognition women held within the trade. Were they silent partners or full-fledged craftsmen? The answer likely varies by time and place. As you consider this, it's clear that the medieval forge was more than a male bastion. It was a dynamic space shaped by many hands, including those of determined women breaking through fire and prejudice alike. Technological changes and challenges. The medieval forge wasn't static. It evolved with the times, adapting to new materials, tools, and demands. You find yourself at the crossroads of tradition and innovation, where every change brings both opportunity and challenge. Imagine the introduction of water-powered bellows, replacing hand pumps and increasing furnace temperatures. This innovation allowed for stronger, more consistent fires, enabling smiths to work faster and produce higher quality metalwork. But such technology required investment and knowledge, and not every smith had access or training. New techniques like pattern welding, a method of layering different steels, emerged, producing stronger, more flexible blades. These advances enhanced the quality of swords and tools, raising the stakes for smiths competing in the market. Yet, change wasn't always welcomed. Many smiths clung to traditional methods passed down through generations, skeptical of newfangled ideas or wary of losing their identity. Guilds sometimes resisted innovations that threatened established standards or guild control. Economic and political shifts also influenced technology adoption. War created demand for weapons and armor, spurring innovation, while periods of peace saw a return to simpler, utilitarian work. Historians debate how widespread and rapid these technological changes were, with some arguing for a gradual evolution and others highlighting regional disparities. As you adjust your hammer grip and stoke the fire, you realize that adapting to change was as crucial as mastering the hammer. The the forge's future depended on those willing to innovate without losing the soul of their craft. Decline and legacy, the blacksmith's fading glow. The age of the medieval blacksmith began to wane as new technologies and industrialization slowly dimmed the fiery glow of the forge. You watch the world transform around you, machines clanking in distant factories, steam engines belching smoke, and new materials replacing traditional ironwork. Mass production and mechanized tools meant that many goods once painstakingly crafted by hand could now be made faster, cheaper, and in larger quantities. The artisanal blacksmith, once the backbone of community life, found his role shrinking. Railroads and factories centralized metalwork, drawing labor away from village forges to urban workshops. Demand shifted from custom-made to standardized products, changing the very nature of smithing. Yet, the legacy of medieval blacksmiths endures. Their craftsmanship set the foundation for modern metallurgy and manufacturing. Their techniques influenced generations of metalworkers, and their cultural impact lingers in folklore, art, and literature. Historians debate how abrupt or gradual this decline was, with some viewing it as an inevitable march of progress, and others lamenting the loss of artisanal skill and community identity. As you strike the last hammer blow of the day, you feel the weight of history on your shoulders, a fading but proud tradition that shaped the world and forged human progress. One glowing ember at a time. Lessons from the forge, grit and grime. As the final sparks fade and the anvil cools, you reflect on what the medieval blacksmith's life truly teaches us. Lessons forged through sweat, struggle, and sheer grit. This is a story not just of metalwork, but of human endurance and the cost of creation. You've lived through scorching heat, relentless noise, aching muscles, and the constant threat of injury. You've balanced artistry with economics, tradition with change, and solitude with community. The blacksmith's journey is a testament to resilience in a harsh world where survival demanded skill, patience, and an unbreakable spirit. Their lives remind us that behind every sword, horseshoe, and plowshare lies countless hours of toil and sacrifice. The beauty of crafted metal masks the grime, burns, and blisters endured by its maker. This story echoes beyond the forge. It speaks to anyone who's faced adversity, persevered through hardship, and contributed silently to the fabric of society. Blacksmiths were the unsung heroes of their time, shaping not just metal, but the course of history itself. Historians still debate many aspects of their craft and lives, but the enduring image is one of human strength and vulnerability intertwined, a powerful metaphor for our shared human experience. So, as you settle into the quiet night, let the story of the medieval blacksmith inspire you to embrace your own challenges with grit and grace. Remember the fires that forge character and the patience required to shape something lasting. As we draw this journey to a close, the forge's roaring heat softens into a gentle ember glow, fading into the calm of night. The hardships, the burns, the relentless pounding all dissolve into the quiet echoes of history. These medieval blacksmiths, with their sweat-streaked faces and calloused hands, remind us that creation comes at a cost. Their lives were shaped by fire and forged in struggle, reflecting the universal human dance between pain and perseverance. Let this tale settle in your mind like the last glow of a dying coal, warming but calming. A reminder that behind every crafted object is a story of endurance and resilience. Now, breathe deep, release the day's burdens, and let the quiet strength of these forgotten artisans lull you toward peaceful rest. Sweet dreams.